just like I said right before we started recording, I like to do the show kind of organically. I don't know much about you. I checked out your website briefly, but I like to give my guests the opportunity to kind of tell who they are, their story, what they're about, and then I learn about you in real time. And I think that's an authentic way for the listeners to kind of get to understand who you are and what you're about. So I appreciate you coming out.
Yeah, no, it's good to be here. Thanks for having me. Where do I start? I guess I'll start what we talked about earlier off the air is, back when COVID started, all of us were kind of scared, didn't know what to think about what was going on. And over the first month or so, a lot of people that I know just started to realize that the reaction to COVID, the lockdowns, the mask mandates and everything were government overreach and under the guise of public safety. And from there, I stopped. I didn't wear a mask this entire time. I haven't worn a mask. I did to go down and see my mom that was dying in Utah because I had to get on the plane, but it's pretty much the only real time that I've worn one. But I started to really wake up during the second set of lockdowns that Inslee put down. Mm-hmm. When I saw that it was coming down, I believe it was, November? The second set of lockdowns. So I said, we're going to I have 6 kids. So I said, let's rent a house in Idaho, get the hell out of this state. And just when the lockdown starts, that day is the day we left and went to Idaho for a week because I just couldn't deal with the lockdowns. And it gave me time to think about what we could do as citizens to kind of fight back. And I started talking with some friends about starting a Patriot group, a group of guys that could kind of band together and look out for each other's families. That was the original idea. And we found a bar in Machias, which is just outside of Lake Stevens in Snohomish.
Oh, Doc's Tavern.
Doc's Riverside Tap House. Yep.
Funny enough, I actually grew up right across the river.
Okay.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I'm familiar with that place.
Yeah, great place. I'd actually never been, but a buddy of mine told me that they'd never locked down, they'd never closed down, they'd never required masks. And I was like, man, this is where our forefathers met during the Revolution. Mm-hmm. What better place to meet than at a bar? So we got there, 8 of us, and I mean, it was fire and brimstone. Can I curse on the air?
You can say whatever the fuck you want on this show.
Yeah.
No, I don't ban anything on the show.
Just making sure. So that first meeting was, it was explosive. It was 8 guys that were pissed the fuck off. And we must have dropped the word fuck at least 500 times in this bar. And it was open to the public at this time, right? So it was a Saturday. We did 2 of those meetings and we wanted to meet every week and just kind of figure out what we could do. And the owners are patriots. They are absolute patriots. And they approached us. They said, we love what you guys are talking about. How would you like to come in and have your meetings on a day that we're closed and we'll have a private event for your Patriot group? And I was like, oh, hell yeah, that's beautiful. So the evolution of that group, we started that second week in December. Once we moved to Tuesday nights at 6:00, it just grew and grew and grew. Now we count hundreds and hundreds of people who kind of come in and out depending on schedules, but we have a group of about 120 that meet every Tuesday, have for the last 11 months. Some of the things we've done, we didn't just want to be a group that got together and drank beer. Yeah. We wanted to be a group that, we do drink beer. Shit, let's be honest. But we wanted to be a group that really created change in our communities. Not so much protesting at the beginning. That's kind of what it was. The protesting, we felt, we could vent and everything. But as I saw the progression of our group, I saw that protesting wasn't working. Nobody gave a shit about us being in the streets, 100, 200 people.
That's kind of something I've noticed over the last year and a half too, because I get invited to protests all the time.
Yeah, same.
And my response is, what's more impactful is living in a manner that is congruent with what you believe.
Yep.
Just day-to-day life. Like you said, not having your mask on, keeping your business open.
Yep.
Not sending your kids to schools that are doing all this bullshit to them.
Right.
And I think that's more impactful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'd say 95% of the people that come to Docs live that way. Mm-hmm. There's a few that come in and we can't vet everyone that hard. Are you wearing a mask every day? But at the end of the day, we're all very like-minded. And so some of the things that we've done that I'm really proud of to create change in our communities, when the lockdowns first started happening, the very first set of lockdowns, we formed what's called the Patriot Action Team. And Our goal was to go out to small businesses that were shutting their doors because they're scared or because they're scared of being judged, and tell them, inform them, look, these are your constitutional rights. You have a right to keep your business open. A governor's mandate cannot shut down your business. This is not a police state. So the idea was to form a coalition of small businesses that could stand up against the governor's mandates. We call it our Small Business Coalition. We have now 37 businesses. We actually have paperwork that they fill out saying that they will not enforce any of the mandates, masks, obviously vaccines, any of that stuff. And our goal is to get to 100 small businesses. So, if Inslee or Ferguson or any of those dumb shits up there on the hill decide to sue one of these businesses, we have almost a pseudo union of small businesses that can say, hey, each of us businesses will throw in $1,000 to file a lawsuit to protect this business that's getting attacked by Liquor Control Board or any of the other entities that Inslee's weaponized, right?
Yeah.
And it's been really heartening to watch the confidence of these businesses grow, the more and more businesses that have joined. So that's one thing that we've done that I'm really proud of, that's kind of helped embolden people to stay open, not require masks. And we have had some of the businesses get attacked by Liquor Control. Docs has just been hammered by Liquor Control.
Really?
Oh,
I've heard that through the rumor mill, but I haven't heard anything official. So they're still going after them, huh?
Well, they had a hearing on Friday. Yeah, they're still going after them. I believe, don't quote me, I believe they want to give them a 15-day liquor license suspension. Which, I mean, for a small business like that, they don't serve food. So that's like a death sentence for their business. They're fighting it in court.
That's exactly what they want it to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Any way that they can shutter small businesses in the state of Washington, they're trying to do it.
No, and that's the fucking thing that drives me nuts about this is they just kind of arbitrarily come up with a path. Right. Like for us, L&I was bothering our gym a little bit.
Right.
Obviously, we don't sell liquor there, so you can't use that avenue.
Yep.
And then, or the Department of Health is going after you. Like they just, okay, what does your business serve, and how can we kind of circumnavigate through this bullshit and come after you?
Yeah.
And it's like, if everybody would just unanimously say, we're open, go fuck yourself.
Yep.
This would be over,
But the propaganda machine's done such a good job of instilling fear in people that we can't get everyone to do that. There's so many people that are sitting out there with their businesses and saying, I have to follow these mandates or I'm going to kill people. That's the reality for a lot of people.
Yeah, they're genuinely scared.
Yeah, exactly. And they're not necessarily bad people. They're just brainwashed, really.
No, I know. And it's a weird time that we're in because this massive propaganda campaign just swept the country.
Yep.
And now when you wake up to it, the other side of the fence thinks you're a terrible person, which lets you know just how well their campaign worked.
Yeah, you're a white nationalist.
Yeah, exactly. That we talked about it a little bit, I think, right before we started recording. But the thing that made me wake up, and I've told this story on the podcast before, is it's like his business, Maiko's business, has to be shut down. My gym needs to be shut down. Any mom and pop store had to be shut down.
Yep.
But then when you looked at the essential versus non-essential list, that's when you started to realize, oh, this isn't about safety.
Right.
And the thing that set me over the edge was the tabs on my truck expired. And I was like, I wonder if they're open. I wonder if a little red sticker is essential. It's so essential that we're going to risk our lives to get this little sticker.
Yep.
And I was like, I already saw where this was going though. So I called up the Department of Licensing and they're like, oh yeah, we've been deemed essential. You can come and renew your tabs. And I'm like, so you can't come work out. You can't go see Maiko to get your neck fixed. But if you want to buy a little sticker from the government for $150, come on in. Right. So that tells me one of two things. A, this is all fucking bullshit. Or B, it's not bullshit, but you're willing to risk people's safety for a little sticker. I'm done with your game.
Yeah.
That's it.
Either way, it's fucked.
Either way, it's fucked, and I'm done with it. And I mean, that was pretty early on. Like I said, like right before my video, because I was starting to get fed up with all this stuff.
Right.
But I just don't understand how we're 20 months into this and people are still buying the fucking narrative.
Yeah, I don't get it either.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yep.
Like, I don't think you can be a critically thinking human being that has your eyes open and not at least say, hey, you know what? This something doesn't add up here.
Well, you just hit the nail on the head. There's not enough critically thinking people. We've for 20 plus years, right? There's been so much prosperity in the United States. Yeah, we've had 2008 with the crash and everything, but most people, especially conservatives, have had it easy. They're out on their boat, they're out spending time with their families, working on their properties, whatever. And they haven't really watched the proliferation of socialism and communism coming our way.
No, dude, I talk about it all the time on the show is that one of the biggest downfalls of this country is that our citizens haven't faced much adversity.
Right.
And adversity is necessary for growth. And when everything is good in your life, and just like you said, you're on your boat and your house is warm and you have food in your belly, and it's like education is free, and like people don't realize what real adversity is. And, I spent a long time overseas in Iraq and Afghanistan, and now I kind of look back on that experience like, oh shit, I was kind of caught up in the military industrial complex.
Right.
You know what I mean? But at the same time, that's a macro level, right? On a micro level, me, just an individual man walking through those mountains and dealing with stuff, it taught me a lot about overcoming and mental toughness.
Right.
And it's like, there's so many people that, and you don't need to go to war to feel that. You can learn that here in a lot of different ways. But there's a lot of people that haven't learned it anyway.
Yeah.
And I think what we're facing right now as a nation is a direct result of that.
Right. Absolutely.
People are too comfortable, I think.
Yeah,
like
dude.
What you said,
they have
people
been for a
need to
long time, though.
open their eyes. I think a lot of people's eyes are open. They see it and they know something's wrong. They're just not doing anything about it. That's the part that bothers me.
Yeah, there is that segment of people.
I would rather
question.
someone believe wholeheartedly that it's true versus someone say, yeah, I know something's wrong. I know I really shouldn't wear the mask, or I know it's bullshit, doesn't work, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Bro, yeah, I have to make a segue off of that, because one of my biggest fucking pet peeves in all of this is people that just wear it around their chin.
Oh,
right.
Like, okay, so you're just saying, you know what? I do believe this is complete bullshit, and I don't think that it's for my safety, and I don't think it's going to save me, but
I'm not man enough to stand up.
It's virtue signal.
yeah, like if you don't believe in it, then fucking stand up and say you don't believe in it.
Yeah, because you're part of the problem if you don't.
100%.
And where we are right now is what I've been saying is being compliant is complicit at this point.
Right.
You know,
Agreed.
you have to be on the side to stand for people's freedoms. And if you just go along to get along and you just, I just put the mask around my chin so I look like I'm kind of complying, or I don't want the vaccine, but I got it because my employer told me I needed to. It's like, you realize we're right here, right now.
Right.
Because all you motherfuckers that are just bending a knee and being compliant. And it's like, oh, well, I got my bills and I got this and I got that. And it's like, yeah. And now they're coming for our fucking kids.
I know.
Because all you motherfuckers just fucking bend a knee and didn't want to ruffle anyone's feathers. Now what are you going to fight for your kids now? Is that where some of these people are going to say, you know what? I have a 5-year-old daughter in kindergarten and you guys want to pump your fucking medicine into her that is showing statistically, I mean, this isn't Crazy Anderson with a conspiracy theory. It's fucking kids' hearts up.
Yep.
That's not my opinion.
Myocarditis and pericarditis
Yeah.
isn't your opinion. It is fact. Myocarditis, pericarditis, you have a 25% greater chance of dying with myocarditis.
Well, and then you align that with the actual death statistics for kids 18 and under.
Which is insignificant.
They just aren't dying.
It's statistically
99.998%
Right.
survivability.
They just aren't dying, and there's no need for a vaccine for the kids, period. I don't think there's any need for this. And I'm not going to call it a vaccine anymore. It's a gene therapy. That's what it is. It says it right in Pfizer and Moderna's paperwork. But at the end of the day, these kids, they're coming for our kids, and we got to stand up for them. So,
and this is what I say about the vaccine, because from what I've read and from what I've listened to, I don't think that it's a good choice, especially for young people, right? That's my opinion.
Right.
Some people will argue with me and hold a different opinion, and that's fine, right?
Right.
But even if you do think that the vaccine is a good thing and you think that it is beneficial for you, then go take it.
right.
The mandates are a completely different conversation.
Yep.
Because once you're telling me what me and my family have to do, if you decide that it's a good thing and your research led you down that path, cool. But why the fuck does your opinion and your research get to dictate what we do with our children?
Yep.
And it's bizarre to me how they've been able to manipulate this narrative that people are literally just buying this. Like Biden straight up said, this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated.
Right.
Okay. Well, if only the unvaccinated are getting sick, then why do you give a fuck?
Right.
I can get sick if I want to.
Yep.
I can eat myself to death. Nobody gives a fuck about that. I can smoke 3 packs of cigarettes a day. Nobody gives a fuck about that. my coach just telling me he has a family member that has been drinking himself to death. Nobody gives a fuck about that, but we care about your health.
Right.
But if you look at the actual science, Israel, the largest experiment, is a 98% population vaccination rate, 10,000 new cases a day, 85% of them vaccinated. So tell me, does it work?
Yep. Nope.
I'm just quoting science. I'm not giving you my opinion.
You know, and to your point that you just brought up, I'm glad you did. Through this foundation that we started, and I'll get to that in a little bit, but I've met a lot of people who are losing their jobs and are willing to lose their jobs, and they're vaccinated. They don't believe in the mandate.
Yeah, those kind of people, they're my favorites.
They're heroes. Yeah.
Because regardless of, and I have friends that took the vaccine early on that are like, man, now that I'm looking into this a little more, it probably wasn't a wise choice.
Right.
But regardless of where you stand on it, I think people need to be, and that's what I've been saying. This isn't a vaccinated or unvaccinated camp that you need to, or team that you need to be on. It's let you do you and let me do me.
Yep.
And both sides should be in agreement of that.
Right.
You know, but
yeah, ultimately constitutional rights have to trump everything.
Yes.
Our rights are there and they should not be infringed upon. You hear infringed a lot with the Second Amendment, but all of our rights should not be infringed upon. And they are at such a rapid rate like none of us have ever seen in our lives in the last 18
100%.
months. It's insane to watch. And I can segue if you want into the foundation.
Well, I just wanted to say one thing on that point is that people need to fucking realize is that this is a constitutional republic. This is not majority rules.
Yeah.
That is not how America
It's not
works.
a democracy, right?
Yeah. If 51% of Americans thought we should bring back slavery, do we bring back slavery? Of course not,
Fuck
right?
no.
It's fucking ridiculous.
Right.
But people think like, oh, well, just because the majority of people want something, that's what they should get. Not if it violates your constitutional rights.
Yep.
I don't care if 80% of people don't want the remaining 20% to own firearms.
Right.
That's not how it works here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so it's bizarre that people think like, oh, well, just because this many people think that, now you need to do this. Go fuck yourself.
Right. Have you heard of Sheriff Mack?
Oh, yeah, of
okay,
course.
Okay.
He actually reached out to me and wanted to give me Police Officer of the Year award after that video.
Wow.
But it was in Virginia and I couldn't make it out there. But
yeah, so that's one of the things that we did at Docs is we watched all of his videos. Like every week we'd watch one of the half-hour segments. And I mean, it was a huge hit, obviously, because he's such a stud. But one of the things that stood out to me that he said, and to your point about a constitutional republic versus democracy, he said that same thing. And he said, myself as sheriff in my county, if every single constituent in my county wants to do something, and it's unconstitutional, and one person speaks up and points out this is unconstitutional, I have to follow the Constitution. I cannot do this even if every single person wants me to do it. It's not even 51-49. We're talking 99.99% of people. It's still unconstitutional. And that's what we've gotten away from as a country.
Yeah.
And as a state, especially.
no, our state is, I mean, where do you begin?
Yeah.
You know, and the firearms one, I think, is front and center because it's right in front of our face.
Right.
You know, like free speech, like they attack that here and there, but it's not like today you can say this, tomorrow you can't say that.
Yep.
But with the firearms, it's like, I mean, I just bought 3 rifles yesterday. And they're like, well, that'll be a $60 assault rifle charge because it's $20 state charge that they decided if you buy an assault rifle, which that term is fabricated.
Right.
It's not even a real term,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
If you buy an assault rifle, you have to pay King Inslee $20 per gun. And it's like, I don't know what an infringement is. Starting to fucking sound like one to me.
Right.
You know, you can just arbitrarily create a number that I have to pay you to own this.
Right.
You know? And so another thing I've done, and if cops are listening, come and fucking arrest me. I don't fucking renew my CWP anymore.
Right.
Like I started thinking about it. I was in the military for 10 years. I was in law enforcement for 10 years. I've been carrying a gun in service of this fucking government my entire adult life.
Right.
And for me to take my daughters to the park, I have to pay you?
Right.
I have to pay you so I can protect my daughters? Go
Yeah.
fuck. What are we talking about here?
That's bullshit.
You know? And so it's like all these little things that we just kind of accept as normal. We need to realize, dude, we've been in the pot and they've been cranking the heat up for a long time.
Yeah.
And now that it's approaching boiling point, we're like, oh shit, you know?
Yeah, I went down and bought a handful of suppressors like 6 months ago, and each one's a $200 tax.
Yeah.
Right.
And let me guess, you haven't got any of them
Nope.
yet because
Nope, not a
the
one.
ATF has to approve them.
Right.
'Cause I'm waiting on the suppressor too. And I talked to the guy yesterday. I went down to the store yesterday and I was like, man, I literally did that paperwork 8 months ago. And he goes, the day Biden took office, the process is moving like pond water.
Oh, man.
And so, yeah, dude, same thing. It's like, fuck the government on every level, right?
Right.
And this is one thing that I've been thinking about a lot lately is like, we have all these people in positions of power, and I won't even call them leaders because they don't understand leadership principles, even at the basic foundational level of what
Right.
leadership looks like, that are telling men like us how to live our lives when they have never been a small business owner, a police officer, an entrepreneur,
Right.
a guy that is a tradesman, or a welder, or anything that most people do with their life to like be part of the grind and be part of society.
Yep.
They've been on the outside of this the whole time.
Yeah.
Like
they're-
Anthony Fauci is
Yeah.
the head of healthcare for basically the world. He's never treated a patient in his life.
Yep. That's embarrassing.
And
That's
he
embarrassing.
governs health.
Yeah. What are we fucking talking about? You see Rand Paul eat him up again yesterday?
Yeah, there's a huge fund to fire Fauci, and he perjured him, lied in Congress on the stand.
I've always thought that Fauci was kind of the fall guy for all this bullshit, that eventually he would take the fall.
I think he will.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he will.
He's
But
on
you know
his
what?
way out
Hey,
now.
good. One thing that was funny is like, first of all, they told us a bat fell in a cup of soup and everybody got sick, right? And then that narrative started to fall apart since it just happened to be right outside of the Wuhan
Then the
lab
bat
of
had sex with a
virology.
pangolin, didn't it?
Yeah. But they fed us all this bullshit. And then it just, in the world of the internet where information's real time, like, I think governments could probably get away with pulling the wool over people's eyes a lot more 20 years ago.
Right.
But now everybody's connected and everybody can do their own research and everybody can share thoughts and opinions. And this thing started to fucking fall apart, right? And so now here we are a fucking year later and we know everything that they said was a fucking
Bullshit.
lie. And it
Yeah.
was a bullshit. It was a bullshit story. And they were funding gain of function
100%.
research.
Yep.
And
The paper trail's there.
and
You
he
can find
just continues
To
to
lie.
sit up there.
But they always knew that was going to come out, that the truth would have to come out, but they've done such a good job of censorship, deplatforming, like what they've done to you on YouTube.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that has been huge. It's proliferated throughout social media, throughout all the internet. It's just been a coordinated plan from the get-go. You know, they knew that people like us would figure it out at some point. So what can we do to stop that information? So what we do is false content on Facebook, right? This is false information.
Disinformation.
You know,
Yeah.
I remember I posted something on Facebook a while back, and it was really a benign kind of, not even about COVID. And I saw a thing pop up. This is false information, and I'm just like, what the fuck is going on?
Why is big tech like unanimously in the pocket of this corrupt movement?
Oh man,
What-
how much time you got?
Power and money.
Yeah, but what do they? I mean, they already got power and money. Bezos and fucking
Yeah, but those guys
Gates
never have
and
enough.
All those
guys
people
never have enough.
have enough money to piss away on whatever they want.
But I think you never have enough power.
No.
You
Yeah.
can never have enough power. Once you're
Gates
drunk
is
on power.
Drunk on it, yep.
Yep.
It's just bizarre that like across the board.
How about
they're defending these people?
Joe Rogan taking the horse dewormer, right? And literally CNN said it does not work.
Mm-hmm.
Today I saw a commercial. Guess what Pfizer's making?
Oh, I know.
Pfizer-Mectin,
Yeah,
the pill that can stop COVID.
I
yeah,
hadn't heard that.
and yep.
Unbelievable.
And they had to shit on ivermectin though because it's fucking dirt cheap.
Yep.
$2.
You
In
know?
India, there's 0 cases of COVID because they give a health packet to every citizen that costs $2.50.
Yep.
Ivermectin, vitamin D3, zinc.
Yep.
No COVID.
Did you guys listen to Sanjay Gupta on Rogan?
Got roasted.
Yeah,
I missed that one.
He
Dude,
got roasted.
And
He had nothing.
And here's the funny part is he went back on CNN after that, and Don Lemon's like, I don't think CNN lied. That's not a lie because you know what? It is a horse dewormer. I was like, motherfucker, someone needs to smash that motherfucker's head in with a hammer.
He's a piece of shit.
Piece of shit.
Yeah, well, we take Rogaine for hair growth. That's an antihypertensive. It's for high blood pressure. But a side effect was hair growth. No different. Ryan Cole said ivermectin has 22 different antiviral, antiparasitic mechanisms. So it is a dewormer. That's one of the things it does.
Well, and another thing is half of veterinary medicine is also used in human beings because we're fucking mammals.
Right.
And our bodies are similar in a lot of ways. You know?
What deems it veterinary and not human?
Yeah.
Speaking of which, Moderna made the vaccine. Up until this vaccine, they never, ever made a medicine for human consumption. Never.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Never.
I knew that.
And then every test they did for this vaccine since 2012, the animals died.
Yep. And they shut it down.
So they shut it down, and then they just skipped the animal trials and went straight to us.
Well, and like I said earlier, I posted that months and months and months ago about Moderna.
And disinformation.
Well, not just that. I got booted off of Facebook.
Yeah.
You know,
Put in jail.
Yeah, they just have that. Well, I'm actually currently
Yeah.
serving a 30-day stint in Facebook jail right now. But
Yeah, they were bankrupt in 2017.
Yep.
Bankrupt.
the government bailed them out.
Now they just posted quarterly earnings of $90 billion. And guess who is part owner of that patent? Fauci.
Anthony Fauci, yep.
Shocking.
Yeah, not really, but yeah.
And then I just recently saw the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is they're no longer going to consider it a single dose vaccine, that it needs a second dose as well because, and this is their official stance on it, is that one single dose is not showing a robust enough response.
Yeah.
So you're literally telling people you're going to fire them. You're going to fucking take their livelihood away. You're going to not allow them to participate in society if they didn't take this shot. And now you're already saying, you know what? It actually didn't work. You got to take another one.
Right.
Israel, they're on 4 now.
Well, and they're
booster,
and
the
now,
4th booster.
And now they're changing the definition of fully vaccinated
Yep.
to reflect whatever they decide you need as a booster. And so your fully vaccinated status to remain employed, like, oh, you know what? I don't want to do this, but I'm just going to do it. Are you just going to do it every fucking 6 months for the rest of your life?
Right.
If that's what they tell you?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and that's the Pandora's box that was opened when mandating vaccines came down. If you don't take a stand, 20 years from now, the government can put a microchip in you. They can put whatever the fuck they want in your body, and you will not have a say because that precedent of people just kneeling down and accepting it, that won't go away. That will
was
be
the
the
mask.
New, that
It's
will be
just a
what
mask.
Inslee calls the new normal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And whenever I hear that fucker say that, I want to punch him in the fucking face. Right. The new normal. Every time I hear that shit.
Yeah, the mask, that's how it started. People said, well, it's just a mask.
Well,
Now
dude,
it's just a shot.
We're,
And it's just a chip.
we're to the point now where if you can just detach emotionally and look back at the progression of COVID since it began, where it's, hey, just 2 weeks to flatten the curve. All right, now it's just a mask. Just put the mask on. Just shut your business down.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to extend the business lockdown now. And now your kids can't go to school anymore. You know, like your kids need to stay home from school, and on and on and on to where it's now. If you don't do what we say, we're firing you, and your kids can't go to school, and you're going to fucking starve to death. And everybody thinks that that's fucking normal and acceptable.
Right.
And I'm fucking let down by our country's lack of defiance.
Yeah.
Same.
Agreed.
I was having that conversation with someone yesterday. If you look at Germany, France, the UK, they're out in the streets by the millions.
Yep.
2.5, 2.3 million. What do we get? 1,000?
Yeah.
500?
And there was people, speaking of Germany, back in the World War II era, there was SS guards that were like, that would go home at night and tuck their kids to bed and look at themselves in the mirror and think, I can't believe I'm fucking doing this.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like, and people might think that's a fucking dramatic analogy, but it's not, because if you're doing something that violates your conscience, I don't care if it violates it on a large level or a small level. Like if you're allowing your conscience to be violated because somebody's willing to give you money for it, you're a fucking whore.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's why I have so much respect for all the whistleblowers that come out. I mean, those people, especially against the big pharma, big tech. I mean, those people are literally putting their life on the line to come out and say, this isn't right. I'm not going to do this. We've had some whistleblowers come out to our foundation, which I can't really name them right now, but just talking to these people, I have so much respect for people that will, and just like you're putting your life on the line doing this podcast. I'm putting my life on the line doing this foundation. We're under a microscope and we have a target on our back because everything that's going on in the world right now is so, and not just America. Let's be clear. This is Australia, Canada, all the tyranny that's raining down. This is an agenda, whether you call it Agenda 201 or any of the names for it. This is happening across the world, and America is probably the worst as far as censoring, but Australia is probably the worst as far as just the lockdowns.
The enforcing.
Enforcing, exactly. But we're focusing on America because that's what we do, and that's what Trump told us to do. And, look out for Americans first, and I do believe in that. As much as I believe that human beings in general need to be, taken care of, as Americans, we need to look out for our country right now.
Well, and it's not, when I think about that, it's not like, oh, it's because we're better than you or we're more important than you.
Right.
But if we're not good here first, how are we going to help others?
Yeah, we're here.
Take care of your own house first.
And then you can look outside your house.
Yeah. How can you help someone else if you're not helping yourself?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I talk about that all the time, like in relation to like your literal own body and your own family and who you are as a man. Yeah. You have to be good for yourself first, and then you add value to your family and to your circle of friends. Yep. And it's that same thing, like on a macro level,
Right.
It's like going to a marriage counseling, but the counselor's divorced.
You want to hear a funny story? A segue. Yes. When my mom was pregnant with my sister, my sister was her first child, and she went to a Lamaze class, and the lady was talking her through like breathing techniques and all this stuff. And then when the baby's coming, you're going to do this and do that. And my dad said
she had a C-section.
He just realized like there's something off here. And so he raised his hand. He said there was a room full of people. There was like 10 couples in there going through this class. And he goes, "How many kids do you have?"
Yeah. Exactly.
Now, hold on, sir. Just hold on. I have been a midwife for 15 years. I have delivered. No. He goes, no. I asked, how many kids do you have? And she's like, I don't have any kids of my own. And my dad looks at my mom, goes, "Get up. We're out of here.
Get the fuck out of here."
Yeah. And they left. My dad is always doing crazy shit like that.
That's
my mom's like, he is just embarrassing me everywhere. I was like, yeah, but it's the principle, right?
It is.
You're teaching me how to deliver a child.
Yep.
And everyone's going to be shocked to hear this. There's plenty of women out there that can teach you or talk you through what childbirth is like, right?
Yeah.
Well, she's not fucking one of them.
Yeah, until you have kids, you don't really know shit, to be honest with you. You have your first kid and you have your friends that are saying, "Oh, my kid would never do that," and then they actually have kids and they do all that and then 10 times fucking more. So.
Bro, people, like I have buddies that are single without kids now. Even like I'm 40, like high school buddies that just never, their life took a different path.
Right.
But I'll hit them up and be like, "Dude, you want to go out to dinner or you want to go to practice tonight?" Like, "Oh, I'm just so busy with this and that. And I'm slammed." And I was like, people don't understand what being busy is like.
No.
Until you have a house full of fucking children.
Yep.
That are you can't even go to the grocery store.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you literally have to coordinate every single second of your life. And then the shit that you deal with, like, it's funny. Like, I literally walked into my daughter's room this morning. My two youngest, I have 3 daughters. My 2 youngest share a bedroom. Okay. And I was just telling Michael this before you guys got here. I bought him this like really nice wooden puzzle. It was like $50.
Yeah.
And it's all intricately carved and it was cool. And it's thrown all over the room.
Right.
And the dogs chewed up half of the pieces. Oh. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? And it's like, I have to look at myself in the mirror and be like, dude, where are you fucking up as a parent? Yeah. Because my kids, they're respectful people. Like they treat people well, they behave well, they're good at school, but they have no fucking respect for like their house and their belongings.
Yeah.
Their rooms are trashed every fucking day. And I'm like, do we live like this? Like, I don't know, maybe we do, you know, but it's just bizarre. And then the other thing is it's like, and I mean, you have 6, so you have twice the experience that I have, but I'm a suspect you're going to agree with me is like, because they talk about nature versus nurture. They're fucking born who they are.
Yeah, agreed.
You know,
You shape them a little bit. But
you definitely have. You can guide them left or right.
Yep.
But I look at my daughters, like 3 daughters, same house, same diet, same rules, same environment, and they couldn't be more different.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Completely different.
So yeah, same thing at your house. Your little one's a wild one.
She's psychotic. Yeah. And then my son is pretty quiet, mellow, and 15-year-old plays with a 4-year-old, but the little one, come here. No.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Dude, I got my oldest was just telling me that she saw a kid or she knows a kid who was told, hey, it's time to put the video games down for the night. And he looked at his dad and goes, I'm not done yet. And just kept playing. And I was like, what? Yeah. And I said, Sai, that's my oldest name. I said, Sai, what do you think would happen if I told you it was time to put the video games away? And you turned around and screamed at me. And she goes, my Nintendo would be in 1 million pieces in the driveway. Yeah. I was like, nailed it.
It's funny you say that. It's funny you say that. I just saw a video of this father and his son sitting there, and it's time to put it away. And he'd asked him once already, and he didn't put it away. So he walked up, TV's right here, and he just threw a right hook right through the front of the TV.
Wow.
And he said, now, time to put it away. The kid was like, bet he never did that again.
Yeah,
that's what I told Sai. I said, listen, that Nintendo Switch was like $400, right? But that money's already gone. I already spent it. That's not a concern of me anymore, of mine. The only thing is that's your little toy now. So if you get to play with it and have fun with it, or if it's in 1 million pieces in the driveway, no different to me.
You own it either way.
You know? Yeah. So
let's segue into the Silent Majority Foundation.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear a little bit more about how that started.
Yeah. So, I was right in the kind of thick of running the Patriot group, and I'd heard about a group that was working to recall the governor, which is music to all of our ears, right? I mean, I knew I had to get involved with that.
There's not a worse human being in Washington.
Well, Bob Ferguson and him, it's like a 1A and 1B, honestly, really. Yeah. I mean, they're both just evil people. So
thing 1 and thing 2.
Yeah.
There you go.
So I went down to a rally at Secretary of State's office when we were returning in the paperwork to recall the governor, and there were 5 charges against the governor. They fastidiously, checked every box, made sure they did it right, because there's so many technicalities, RCWs, whack codes that you can get kicked out on, right? Just you're done. You can't even file the paperwork because you didn't dot this I or cross this T. So I went down to the rally. I actually wasn't going to go, and I'm really thankful that I did go that day, because when I got down there, I heard the attorney that had wrote the 3 of the 5 charges for the recall was there, and I said, well, where is he? I got to meet this guy. I got to talk to him. That was at the time that Docs was, this is 7-8 months ago, Docs was getting hammered by LNI. I mean, Liquor Control Board. And I wanted to talk to him. What can we do as American citizens and the citizens of the state of Washington to help people like Docs? They've literally, all they've done to get their liquor license suspended was allow people to walk in their building without a mask. They didn't overserve. They didn't allow minors in. They didn't do anything that was in their contract.
Not a violation of any liquor laws.
Yeah, of what was in their contract that they signed. And now you're changing the playing field and you're taking away their liquor license, and I was fucking pissed. So I went up to this attorney, Pete Serrano, and little did I know that was the kind of the start of a bromance. I mean,
perfect.
Yeah,
those are the best kind.
We talked for like 2 hours down there, and we talked every day since. And
where was this at again?
At the Secretary of State's office in Olympia.
Okay,
in the parking lot. We talked. So we exchanged numbers, and we talked every day after that. And he had an idea. Back in, when was that? Maybe June. He said, I've always wanted to start kind of like what the ACLU should be if they weren't pussies, right? Yeah, liberal pussies. And I may get sued for that, but
Bring it.
So starting Silent Majority Foundation, Pete said, I want to do this for the state of Washington, for citizens here in the state of Washington, where we can fight government overreach, not just COVID mandates. We're talking Second Amendment stuff, religious persecution, all these things. We want to stand up for the citizens of Washington, a grassroots movement. And I've been in business development for 20 years, and he knew my background. He knew I was a Patriot. He knew I ran the Patriot group. And he was like, you know what, if we can find one more guy. So a friend of mine, Vincent Cavallari, he's our third director. He is a sheriff's deputy here in Snohomish County. He's also a city councilman in Mill Creek. But that guy is, that's a cool story in and of itself. He was the only person on Facebook that I saw that was a public official that early on during the pandemic, he was coming out and saying, this is bullshit. Everybody wake up. This is bullshit. Very eloquently, by the way.
Yeah.
Very well-spoken man.
Not just, this is bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? I got to go meet this motherfucker. So I messaged him on Facebook. I was like, can we meet? And I told him I ran a Patriot group here in Snohomish County. And he said, absolutely. So we went down. He wanted to go into Starbucks. And I'm like, no, I don't do Starbucks. But so we went out to his car, hung out, and talked for what I thought was going to be 10, 15 minutes, turned into about an hour and a half. And again, kind of like with Pete, that bromance friendship just blossomed, and we talked every day. So we're the three directors on Silent Majority Foundation. Vince, actually, after we started the foundation, decided to run for Congress. So he is currently running for Congress out of the 1st District.
Okay.
He's someone that is going to stand up for people in Congress like Trump would, except he won't say, I'll grab you by the pussy. Right?
Yeah.
Like really. He is as constitutionally minded as a politician. And I don't like politicians. I'll call a spade a spade.
Yeah.
I just don't.
Most people don't.
But at the end of the day, there's a few that I've met during this journey that are standing up for us. Robert Sutherland, who just lives up in Granite Falls. I mean, he's probably the biggest warrior in the legislature. And he's hated there. They don't like him.
Of course.
Because he speaks his mind. He speaks his mind about what's right and what should be done. So again, I've met a lot of people, but the three of us on the board of directors, the first thing we were going to do is roll it out toward the end of October because we wanted a website. We want our business cards, all our ducks in a row, right? Well, a monkey wrench got thrown into that because Inslee decided to write the vax mandate. And when that came out, I believe it was August 9th when it came out, the three of us immediately got on the phone and we said, we need to expedite rolling out the foundation. Pete said, I need to start writing litigation of a lawsuit against this right now. So we did, and he did. And the idea was to file a lawsuit in a conservative county so it wouldn't be heard in Thurston. There is a state statute that basically says any lawsuit filed against a public official, not just Inslee, but any public official, has to be heard in their county. It's a convenience statute for them, which is total bullshit on its face.
Of course. Yeah.
But it's still there. The statute's there and it's never been beaten. 42 times, I believe. And that asshole Ferguson touts it as much as he can on Twitter and everyone else that I'm 42-0.
So it kind of forces you to play by their rules.
Yeah, in Thurston County. And Thurston County is a tough place to argue. There's a lot of liberal judges there. There's some good ones, but it's a roll of the dice who you get.
Yeah.
So our thought was if we find a plaintiff in, Franklin County, which is where Pete lives over in Pasco, we're going to have a puncher's chance of winning this thing. And so he filed the lawsuit for injunctive relief. And for those who don't know what injunctive relief is, you pick a single plaintiff, so it keeps it real narrow. And we use the Article 1, Section 10 and 11 of the state constitution to argue, and then the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, basically the Privileges and Immunities Act, which is equal protection for all citizens, right? And arguing it there, we felt like that we could win. And we had the change of venue hearing. Again, 42 times lawsuits had been filed against the governor. 42 times it had been moved to Thurston. We won. We kept it in Franklin County.
Okay.
And that was kind of my aha moment looking at our attorney. We'd talked, hundreds of hours about this. But watching him litigate and actually fight Ferguson's office and keep that in Franklin County, that's when I knew I'd hitched my wagon to the right guy.
Yeah.
And the AG's office being the 800-pound fucking gorilla in the room, They came back and they said, well, we're going to file an immediate emergency appeal to the Supreme Court. They did. The Supreme Court, being relatively liberal, moved it to Thurston County. So we're in Thurston. That action is in Thurston. Got a little ahead of myself. So injunctive relief, if we win for our single plaintiff, it stops the mandate for all 7.6 million residents of the state of Washington.
Is it basically just established case law?
Yeah. It's an injunction that says, no, Jay Inslee, you cannot do this. And basically that injunction stays in place throughout the course of the litigation, through the Supreme Court, through the appellate courts, all that.
Okay.
And so what we were trying to do is to buy people time, right? From October 18th, we wanted them to not lose their jobs on October 18th and get 4 or 5 months to where we could argue this through the courts, and then hopefully get to a point where other law firms or other folks were stepping up and filing similar lawsuits to stop this thing, like for good. So that's one lawsuit. Another lawsuit that
where is that one at now? What process or part of the process is it?
We have a hearing this Friday in Thurston County. There's a few things that are going on right now. There's a judge. So our attorney can ask for one judge to be recused, basically, if we don't like them. If you get assigned a judge, we're considering doing that. We haven't decided yet. There's a lot of factors that go into it. And I'm going to leave that to Pete. I'm not an attorney. I'm a business guy, right?
Yep.
But we do talk tons every day about this stuff. So he feels confident that I can kind of bring all this stuff to the table. So from that hearing, our hope is, even though October 18th has passed and all these people have lost their jobs and we didn't achieve injunctive relief for them, which, was heartbreaking for us because we busted our ass.
Mm-hmm.
The hope is that if we can win the injunctive relief after the fact, that will strike down the mandate so people can go back to their employer and say, look, this mandate that was in place was the reason you got rid of me. I wasn't smoking in the fucking bathroom and I wasn't, doing stupid shit. You fired me because of this mandate. Now it's gone. It's struck down. So give me my job back or I'm going to sue you because there's no longer a shield of liability with that mandate to protect you from a lawsuit. So that's the hope moving forward if we can win injunctive relief still.
What do you know what because I know like Boeing's being hit with this.
Yep.
And a lot of my friends that are part of various unions, like metal workers, electricians,
right?
Do they have new future deadlines that are established?
December 8th is the Biden deadline for Boeing, for the shipyards, for pretty much every federal worker and contractor. December 8th is when they lose their job. And that's what I was about to segue into is our next lawsuit. This one is enormous. I mean, the injunctive relief, you don't really need expert witnesses. You're arguing on constitutional grounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
This lawsuit, we're going to argue the science. So we're going to be bringing in tons of expert witnesses. It's going to cost a lot of money. And that's why my job with the foundation is to try and raise money so we can fight, so we can bring in expert witnesses, because no one's fought that fight in the courts to challenge the science, right? So bring in the frontline doctors or bring in people from around the world, experts who can come in and testify that no, this vaccine does not have the efficacy that the NIH or CDC says it does. It's not effective. Look what's happening in Israel. Look what's happening all over the world. That's this fight. And we are filing it for the Hanford workers. So it's going to be a class action for the Hanford workers. It's going to have an injunctive relief component like the first one. But the real difference, like I said, is we're going to argue the science this time. And it's going to take a little bit of time. Again, the injunctive relief portion of this lawsuit for the Hanford workers is try and temporarily get a temporary injunction to stop people from getting fired and let us argue the science in the court.
Mm-hmm.
So,
one of the things that I find fascinating about this is why aren't the heads of all these corporations standing up for their workers? Because it seems like everybody, we already talked about it, everybody's bending a knee, but if Boeing loses 30% of their workforce, they're not making fucking airplanes anymore.
right.
Right? So at what point is just not even on a moral high ground, just on being economically strategic.
Right.
Hey, we can't afford to lose these guys. We need to fucking, but nobody, it doesn't seem like anybody's doing that.
Yeah. What I've kind of pondered, I'm glad you brought that up with Boeing, because I've kind of pondered, I've lived here since I was 11. I'm 48 now. So we've all seen kind of the ebbs and flows of Boeing, right? They have seasonal layoffs every 5, 7, 8 years, something like that, where things just get slow. This could be a case of them looking at it like, well, if these people get fired for the vaccine, we don't have to have a seasonal layoff. We don't have to pay continuing education. We don't have to pay all these extra benefits we pay when people get laid off.
Just wash your hands of
That's
them.
a huge boon for them.
Yeah.
Right.
And they'll hire the young vaccinated that get paid.
Yeah,
less.
exactly. So I don't know if that's the case, but there's been a lot of people that I've talked to about that. And I mean, again, I'm not saying that is happening because I don't want Boeing to sue me. But that's a very real possibility in my mind and a lot of people's minds. Is they could could be a very convenient thing for them.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't put that past them.
Yeah.
And they can come and try and sue me. Fuck you, Boeing.
That's what they do systematically. I have a lot of patients, and it's almost every year to other year they'll have a layoff where they lay off the high dollar employees, and then they have a rehire of all these new
20-year-old kids
that don't know a thing.
Yeah, it's a bit. It's
So
a
that's
business
why I don't want to
model.
fly.
Yeah,
They're building the
business
planes.
Yeah, no shit, right? So if you mentioned that this is going to be an expensive process,
right?
How are you setting up like fundraising, and what do people need to know about it, and where can they help?
Yeah, so fundraising, that's again, as one of the directors, that's pretty much my focus. You know, we have our attorney and we have Vince, who his focus is education and advocacy. So that's really our kind of our motto is education, advocacy, and litigation. Litigation if we have to, right? But we want to advocate for people. So take, for instance, this new L&I ruling that you may or may not heard of that's going to require the jab for job mandate for all private businesses. I don't know if you've heard of it.
For all private businesses?
All private businesses.
No,
But did it go? Didn't go through.
It hasn't come through yet, but there's
it's on the table.
I don't even want to call it rumblings. We have inside people who are telling us that there's meetings going on where they're coming to these groups, you know, whether it's unions or like a Master Builders Association, and behind closed doors, they're saying prepare for this. So the rulemaking.
So it'll no longer be businesses with 100 employees. It'll be every single business.
Yes. In the state of Washington, this won't be a Biden thing. So Biden's the 100 employees at the federal level. This is all private. So they've already gone after all the cops, all the nurses, everyone here, all the state workers.
Yeah, they went after everybody that they could control their paycheck.
The low hanging fruit. Mm-hmm. Yep. And now they are going to go after the rest of the people in the state of Washington, private business. So what we did is we worked with Pete and I found this out. Him and I were going to speak at a conference down in Gig Harbor 2 weekends ago. And we found out literally on our way down to the conference on Friday what was going on. And we met with quite a few legislators from the House of Representatives, and we told them about it. And we helped them kind of draft a letter to send to Inslee saying, bullshit if you're going to do this. You are not going after private business, period, jab for job. Inslee had a press conference I think a day after that letter, and everyone expected him to come out and announce the private business jab for job mandate, and he didn't. So whether the letter that we helped the legislators write and send to him worked or not, but that's advocating, right? That's us advocating for the citizens without having to go to court. And we want to do a lot of that. That's a big part of how we want to help the citizens of Washington.
No, that's awesome. And it's like I tell my jiu-jitsu students all the time, like, you can't sometimes measuring success is hard because you don't know if you had a potential impact that or not. Right. You know what I mean? Right. And so like for the reason I always make jiu-jitsu correlations, right? But once you're trained and you have more confidence and you walk around with your shoulders up and your head held high, people are looking to victimize people that don't have that posture, right? So your jiu-jitsu may have saved you before you ever even gotten in a fight.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I draw a correlation to that because you guys are out there, you're doing the right thing, you're putting the work in, but you may have had a positive outcome and not even ever really know it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, which is pretty cool to see.
Yeah. And the other thing, as far as advocacy goes, we've had several town hall meetings to help people with the exemption letters. And this has been over the last 7-8 weeks where we're not charging anyone to come into these. Pete has, again, he's over in the Tri-Cities, and he has a few hundred people come into this church, and he's advising people, giving basically free legal advice because we want to help people. We're not asking people to pay us for that legal time. Just donate to our foundation.
Got it.
Donate whatever you can to our foundation and help us fight. So that segues back to my job. My job is fundraising for the foundation, big, small, and everything in between, getting folks to realize that we're fighting for their constitutional rights, their kids' kids. And we have a platform to do it. We have an attorney. I never thought I'd find a constitutionally minded attorney, to be honest with you. I mean, I've met a lot of attorneys. My dad was an attorney. Great guy. He worked for the state of Washington. He was very principled, but not really constitutionally minded. And it's rare to meet those guys because there's not a lot of money in it.
The universe wanted you to meet that guy.
Absolutely.
I believe that shit.
Yeah,
now.
I believe it too. I believe it too.
Because look at, like, you just happen to run into each other in a parking lot, and now you're actually making impact.
Right. Yeah. So this guy, again, hitching my wagon to him has been huge because he has the chops, the legal chops to get into court and fight Bob Ferguson's team, right? If he can fight Bob Ferguson's team, he can fight against anyone. And so again, going back to the other lawsuit where we're going to challenge Biden's mandate, we're filing that in federal court in the Eastern District, right? So if win, lose, or draw.
Stay out of the Western District.
As much as you can, right? Yeah. So if we can win there, win, lose, or draw, though, we're going to appeal, and it may go to the federal Supreme Court, and we're willing to take it that far. I mean, this is the case. This is the one that can free people. I hate to say it that way, but really it is. And it's kind of overwhelming to think about the ramifications of it, of the target that's going to be on our back if we do win. Honestly, I think about that laying in bed sometimes.
No, and that's something you do have to think about. That's a very real. I mean, there are people making billions with a B over all of this corruption.
I know it.
And if people can figure out a way to shut that down, you're damn right that there's going to be a target on your back.
Yeah.
And like, not just figuratively, like literally.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
But the second that you allow someone to intimidate you because of the possible outcome like that, now you're their slave.
Right.
And it's like, I think you should be willing to fight both like you're doing legally, but also you can't let these people instill fear in you, even if they do want to come after us one day.
Right.
And
I don't
bring it.
I'm not scared per se, but I have to be a realist and think about.
You got 6 kids.
Yeah, exactly. And
I think about that stuff all the time because when they were saying that we couldn't be open, but I was open, I made it very fucking clear. And I was posting it on Instagram. I was telling Jenny, like, my body armor and my AR-10 and a fucking go bag with 15 magazines is going to me to open my gym every day. And if a fucking 30-year-old sheriff who's just following an order thinks he's going to fucking drag me out of there in handcuffs,
right,
I fucking dare you. I fucking dare you.
Well, and I'm glad you brought up the...
And bro, the thank God that we have Fortney.
I was just going to say that.
Because if we had some pussy sheriff, there's a good chance I'd be fucking dead right now.
Right.
Because that was a hard line in the sand for me. I got fired as a police officer, and I said, this gym is how I feed my fucking children now.
Yep.
So if anyone thinks they're going to take it from me, I mean, I fought in Iraq and Afghanistan for people's freedoms, right?
Yep.
What do you think all these veterans, their mindset is when you try and take their freedoms away and their children's freedoms away?
It's not going to be pretty.
It's not going to be pretty. And I was thinking, like, I mean, do you know who Ian Smith is? Have you followed his story? Out in New Jersey.
The gym owner.
Oh, the gym owner. Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I've kind of become a buddy of his, like, through this whole experience, and I flew out there for a weekend. That motherfucker was pulled out of his gym like 5 times in handcuffs.
I know it. I remember.
Yep. And it's like, man, these are real human beings that are having their fucking freedom taken away and put in a cage. Simply because they want to offer people the ability to work out, train their body, and be healthy. Like, it's not some fucking obscure idea. People I know have been put in a fucking cage for letting people work out. And I was like, nope.
That's insane.
I can't fucking, I'm not going to play this fucking game. Right. You know? But yeah, we lucked out. I mean, if we lived across the county line, things could be very fucking different.
They would be very different.
You
no
know?
question. Yep. Well, to go back, I was remiss that I didn't mention. So if people do want to help us fight, if they want to donate to our foundation, we have a website. It's www.silentmajorityfoundation.org. Again, we're a nonprofit. We filed for 501c3 status with the federal government about 9 weeks ago. We've been told we should have that back by the end of this month, by the end of November. So that'll change the playing field for us. Obviously, people who have a lot of money and they're looking to get tax breaks, right?
Yeah.
501c3. If you are giving money to different charities, please consider ours because we are fighting every day. I mean, 7 days a week. I've never worked this much in my whole life, and I'm lucky enough that I have a company that I own with a couple of partners, and I've kind of set it up to where I could be out on my boat and I could be out, have some day drinks with my wife and not really have to work too much. And time with your family is so huge, right? But now all that time literally that I used to spend with her during the day or with my family is in the foundation.
Yeah.
I'm just working nonstop on it. So is Pete. He has 3 young kids. They're not nearly as old as my kids are, but we're all just busting our ass.
Well, I think you bring up a perfect point. And I know Andy Frisella talks about this a lot because he's into business and being successful and being an entrepreneur.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, you might consider yourself winning because you can be out on your boat or you can have day drinks for your wife. And that's cool, right? That you built that opportunity for yourself.
Yeah.
But if we lose our freedoms,
Exactly.
all that shit's gone too.
Yep.
So it's like you have to prioritize this fight because all the things that you enjoy about your life, if we lose this fight, they're fucking gone too.
Yep.
And so
a world with socialism will be a world with no boats.
yeah, exactly. Fuck, dude, this world is almost a world with no boats for me already because of gas prices.
Right.
Like, dude, last summer it cost me like $300 to fill my boat up. Now it's like $800.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's
That's
like,
why you haven't asked me to go fishing.
dude, I didn't go out much this year, man. No, it's a different thing, dude.
Kick that website again.
Yeah, it's www.silentmajorityfoundation.org. We have a PayPal on there. We know PayPal is, a lot of people don't like it because it's relatively liberal. We felt kind of like Facebook. It's just the biggest entity.
It's convenient.
Yeah, it's convenient.
You know?
A lot of people know it. So we're going to eventually matriculate to another donation site. As a matter of fact, we're getting a CRM, if everyone's familiar with what that is, to track data. It sends out, thank you cards to donors, does all types of things, but it also has a component where you can donate through it. And so eventually we're going to go away from PayPal to that.
And I'll put all this stuff in the show notes so people can find direct links just below.
Awesome. Thank you.
And then I'm also going to Google the word matriculate.
Oh shit. I did that, didn't I?
Let me ask you this. Cause you mentioned it, you said, you guys offer legal help. People can come to the meetings and there's some resources. I know personally, my jiu-jitsu students, I bet 30 to 40% of them are on the chopping block right now.
Wow.
And everybody's freaked out because around here, so many people are employed by Boeing.
Right.
What resources for people that are like fighting the looking for a religious exemption or if they're in the middle of that fight right now, where would you send them or what would you say to them?
So where I would send them is tough because there's not a lot of people like us that are standing up. A lot of law firms out there feel like it's a losing battle and they don't want to get involved. There's not a lot of money in it, blah, blah, blah. Nobody's been harmed yet. The class actions after the fact, after people have been harmed and lost their jobs, that'll be a different story. There'll be a ton of attorneys because there's this.
Yeah.
But right now, and again, this is advice from our attorney. So I'm not an attorney. Make sure everyone knows that. Fill out your religious exemption or a creed exemption. So on our website, our attorney put together what's called a creed exemption. So you have a deeply held belief, and it's not a religious belief, but it's a belief that this vaccine is not good for you. So creed is right in our Constitution, right? You will not discriminate against religion, skin color, creed. So he put that together. A few people that we know of have used it, and they were successful with it. But again, whether you're in a union or you're just working for a company, file a grievance if you're with a union. If you're going to get fired and you filed your religious exemption and they say, okay, we accept it, but there's no accommodation for you because you work with the public, you're out of a job. make sure that there's a paper trail, because when you do go to sue after you lose, whether it's with us or another law firm, if you don't have that paper trail, it's going to make it exponentially tougher for that attorney may not even want to take your case on. Let's put it that way. So make sure that you go through it, go to your HR if you're not a union, and file a complaint. Say, I disagree with this. This vaccine you're calling it is still under emergency use authorization, and you're making me lose my job over it. Make sure that you're filing those. That's the advice I have. I wish I had more like just kind of stronger advice, but right now none of us have ever been through this before.
Yeah, it's kind of uncharted territory.
But
for
also
sure.
the time and location of docs for people that want to come and be a part of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let
me finish my thought there. So right now we're so small. We have one attorney. We have a couple of attorneys that are kind of coming in and helping, but we literally have one guy who's writing litigation nonstop. And this guy, and I failed to mention this earlier, from the time that he started the Johnson case, which is the injunctive relief case that we filed in Franklin, the dude's my hero. He wakes up at 6 a.m, went to his day job, got home at 5 and wrote litigation till 3, 4 a.m, got up at 6 o'clock and went back to work, wash, rinse, repeat every day. And he didn't have to do that. Guy has a job making 100. I'm not going to say how much he makes, but he did well for himself. He didn't have to do any of this, but he believed in it as much as I believed in it. And he's just busting his ass as much as he can, but we can't take on, we wanted to take on Boeing. We talked about it a lot. We talked about what that would look like to file a lawsuit against Boeing. We just don't have the bandwidth. We don't have the funding. If somebody stepped up and wrote us a check for $1 million, if there was, a big fat donor out there, we could do it. We could hire 3 more attorneys, a couple paralegals, and we could do that, fight that fight. But we have limited bandwidth right now, and we wish we didn't. We wish we were in a place to fight every fight.
Boeing has a building full of attorneys.
Yeah.
Just waiting.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why that thing's going to be so expensive. We would have to have someone just step up and say, hey, here's a dump truck full of money. I'm going to dump it in your front yard and you go fight this fight.
I don't think people understand how much litigation costs either.
Yeah.
Me and Gordon, I don't know if he told you, we just got done with litigation, getting a driveway easement on a piece of property that we co-own together.
Yeah.
What's it been? Months and months now. I think we're in at $10,000 just to get a driveway.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because let me speak to that. So when Ferguson filed the change of venue motion, Pete called Vince and I. We got on a 3-way call, which we were doing a lot back then, and he said, so this is what's going on, guys. He said, I feel comfortable arguing it in Thurston. There's some good judges there. There's some bad judges there. And Vince and I said, well, we filed it in Franklin County for a reason. It's a conservative county. That's where the plaintiff is. That's where his employer that did him harm is. And most importantly, let's tell Bob Ferguson, fuck you. We're here to fight. We're not going to take the change of venue sitting down. And so we did. And Pete, the next thing he said, just want you guys to realize we've raised, I think at the time we'd raised like $25,000, $30,000. We're up to about 100,000 now. He said, if we lose this, if we wouldn't lose the change of venue, Ferguson has said in the email to me that he will ask for attorney's fees. And I was like, well, how much is that? And he said, the attorney's fees for that one motion is $10,000.
Jeez.
For that one motion. That's how expensive it is fighting the state, because they're going to spare no expense. They have our taxpayer money.
It's our money.
That's the aggravating fucking thing
They're
about
using
this.
our money against us.
Yeah, to take away our rights.
Isn't that fucking insane?
It's insane, and it pisses us off. Pete and I talk about it all the time.
So an average lawsuit, probably about $500,000, probably.
Yeah.
At least, right?
Which one?
An average good one of your, not the injunctive relief, but the
de
grace is going to be significant.
The lawsuit, the Boeing lawsuit, or the actually the one where we're going to fight the Hanford lawsuit, where we're going to fight the science. That you're probably looking at $300,000 to $500,000 just in expert witnesses.
Jeez.
That's not the case. That's just to pay expert witnesses.
Speaking of the government using our money to fight against us, you see Jenny Durkin was like, I'll give $1,500 to any first responder that gets the vaccine. And I'm like,
today I saw
what the fuck? How the fuck? What fund does some old cunt have access to that she can just arbitrarily say, I mean, I don't know how many first responders work inside of fucking the city of Seattle, but it's a lot.
A lot, right?
And you can just say, hey, I will give $1,500 to anyone that decides to get the vaccine. And that's not her money. Just like we said, that's our money. Right. And now you're using our money to bribe people, and nobody has a fucking problem with that.
Today I saw it. They're offering each 5-year-old $100 to get the shot.
Where?
I'll bring it. I saw it today, and I read it in passing. I'll find it.
See, what I'm worried about is, are they gonna set some type of vaccination center up where you don't have to have parental consent?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Because dude,
they are.
My daughter was with one of her friends, and her parents took her to get vaccinated. Not my daughter, but the friend that she was with. And when I heard that, I was fucking mad about that. Like, you're taking my fucking kids to a vaccination center?
They're sending them to schools. They're setting up mobile vaccine centers, and they're going around to the schools.
I'll just be crazy Anderson again. If someone puts a fucking needle in my daughter without fucking my consent, a bullet will be put in your fucking head. Period, dude. And then I'll be the crazy one, and there'll be a fucking CNN story about me, and this guy's just, but you know what, dude? Put something in my fucking kids without permission, and I'm gonna fucking put something in you, dude.
Well, let me tell you a story, Greg, that ties into that, and it may want you to get your gun out right now. So there's a group there, and there's a whole bunch of Patriot groups. This one's called Washingtonians for Change. They have a few thousand people, and they meet, I think, every week. A pretty organized group, and I've gotten to know all the sister Patriot groups around the, King, Snohomish, Skagit, and Whatcom County. So I have these people on my phone, and I talk to them from time to time. And Michelle Lee, she heads up Washingtonians for Change, and she called me about, a week and a half ago? And at 8, 9 o'clock at night, and I was like, wow, why the fuck is she calling me? And she said, Eric, I need your help. I need the foundation's help. I got to tell you what happened. And I was like, all right, I'm listening. And she said, so I have a 17-year-old daughter, and she came to me and she said she's sexually active and she wants to get on birth control. So I took her to the doctor, and we go into the room, and the doctor said, asked if I could leave because, what 17-year-old kid wants to talk about their sexual activity around their parents?
Yeah.
And I understand that. I probably would have left the room myself. Mm-hmm. So she's outside, and they come out and say they're all done. Well, while she was out in the hallway, the doctor had coerced her 17-year-old daughter into taking the vaccine, which the doctor knew the entire family was completely against. Michelle Lee, everyone in the family was anti-COVID vaccine. And she coerced the daughter. The daughter told her in that meeting that she'd been thinking about, had thoughts of suicide, all this stuff. She still coerced her into making this major medical decision without the mom in the room. And Michelle just said, I don't know what to do. Can your foundation help me? So I called Pete. He got on the phone with her the next day, and it's actually still a fluid situation. But to your point, like, she was in that room with a doctor that was supposed to have her care and the parents' best interests at heart and the kid, and she just unilaterally came down and stuck a needle in her.
I have a similar story. I won't mention names. One of my patients' daughter came home from school, rubbing her arm, jabbed a shot in her without the parents' consent.
At school.
At school. There was a mobile vaccination clinic, and filed them in, and boom, right in her arm.
Is this local?
Yep.
Dude, I'm so fucking
it's freaky.
Thankful that I got my kids out of public school.
Yeah, we have our kids in the same school. I'm fearful for my son, but I've given him the authorization to do anything he needs to get out of that room.
Yeah.
Punch, kick, scream, run.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Needle.
I've got a sophomore and a junior at Lake Stevens High School, and I've told them the same thing. If any health officer, if any adult in any capacity approaches you about coming into the health office and you're not sick, you didn't just like break your ankle or something, you just walk right out of school, text me, I'll come pick you up. It was hard because my kids, they've missed a year and a half of all this distance learning, right?
Yeah.
Missed that social time with their friends at school. And, I didn't want them to go to school. When school started this year, I said, I'm pulling you guys out. We're homeschooling you. And they both looked at me and they said, Dad, we haven't had any social time with our friends for a year and a half. So there's kind of that balancing act.
Of course. Yeah.
What do I do? And so
they're also to the age, I mean, they're rapidly approaching adulthood.
Yeah.
So like even with my 12-year-old, my youngest two went right into private school. And then I had that same conversation because my 12-year-old's like, no, my friends, and she wanted to stay.
Right.
And I let her for a little bit, but then there's a couple more things that took place. And I said, hey, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You know, but that's 12, let alone 16,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
I totally see where you're coming from there.
So, but it's still, it's something that weighs on me every day that they're there wearing masks, and that there's a very real possibility, because we've seen how quickly the landscape changes with COVID over the last 18 months, that in a week from now, that could happen.
Well, so check this out. I have a friend, and I've told the story on the show before, but is very involved in Kittitas County. He lives in Ellensburg, and he is like attending the school board meetings and kind of making some connections there. And they handed out paperwork that showed the vaccination requirements to be in public school in that county.
Right.
COVID is now on that. And all of the vaccines have their little date next to them, must be received by. And then on the COVID vaccine, it says not yet determined. And what he was told is that by next fall, to come back after the summer, that will now be a mandatory requirement for all children in the state of Washington.
Wow.
And so, it's kind of the rumor mill, but it's also, he took a picture of the document and sent it to me. And it's like, well, there it is right there. It says COVID-19 vaccine not yet determined.
Right.
So just the fact that it's on there, we know where this is going.
Yeah.
You know, anyone that doesn't think this is where it's going, of course it's where it's going. You know, like we said, it was a slow progression, and then it's like a snowball. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And your 5-year-old fucking daughters, we both have like little baby daughters. Can you imagine fucking someone telling us what to do with them? Like, if that doesn't make you want to fight to the death, what
Right.
will, dude?
Right.
You know? And it's like, Joe Rogan talked about on that episode, they said, this isn't like my opinion. The science shows that children, especially young males, like adolescent males, are more likely to have the heart problems. They're more likely,
Much more likely.
to be hospitalized with a heart condition than from COVID-19, right? And do you know what his Sanjay Gupta's response to that was? He goes, well, the reason, and it's almost like he's trying to defend it, and it just makes him look like a fucking moron. He goes, well, the reason that is because young males typically have a very, very robust immune system. So they have a stronger inflammatory response to the spike
They
proteins.
need the vaccine less.
What a crock of shit.
I know, right?
Wow.
Ridiculous, man.
You know, like a lot of my shows have been based around this kind of stuff lately, you know? And it goes back to what we just said maybe a half hour ago. It's like, yeah, it'd be fun to talk about sports and jiu-jitsu and all the stuff that guys like. But right now, if this isn't front and center, none of that stuff's going to fucking matter,
Yep.
you know? And it's just bizarre to me that there's still people that are willing to put this on the back burner when they're telling you they're going to put it in your fucking babies,
Yeah.
you know? And again, dude, I don't even give a shit of its efficacy. I don't even give a shit of its long-term, like, I shouldn't say I don't give a shit. I do, but that's not why I'm willing to die on this hill. It's that you think you get to tell me to do what to do with my children.
Yep.
That's it, dude.
Same.
I like to quote the science. Let's just give them that fact that it's 90% effective, which I can prove that it's not. 90% effective to treat against a virus that their immune system is 99.998% effective at defending against. How does that make any sense?
It doesn't.
And then you add in the toxic element of the vaccine. Proven. 18,000 people are dead because of it.
Right.
2.8 million adverse reactions in a child. So it's much more harm than benefit. They just don't need it.
Yep. No question.
It's not about health.
Tell them about
People-
tell them about the toxic elements in it, because I know you understand this stuff better than anyone.
Just the adverse reactions alone are. So Harvard did a study on VAERS, Vaccine Adverse Events Reporting System, 2015, and they summarized that less than 1%
Yep.
of the reports were actually reported. So let's just say it's 1%. There's now 18,000 deaths. Do the math. That's 1.8 million deaths.
Right.
In addition to Bell's palsy, anaphylactic shock, fertility issues for women and men, it systematically attacks the ovaries, the testes, and the scrotum. That's all proven. And not to mention the graphene oxide, and 1.63 million doses were recalled because they found stainless steel. So the point is the liability issue. Why would you make sure it's safe if you have zero liability?
Yeah, well, they don't give a fuck.
No. If you were making a car and nobody could sue you, how much effort would you put into making that car awesome?
Yeah.
You give a shit.
Yeah,
Cheaply as possible, get it out.
They don't need airbags.
No, they don't need brakes. Just go and slow down.
I'm glad you brought that up because Gordon and I actually met at we had a medical symposium that our Patriot group put together with Dr. Judy Mikovits. I don't know if you're familiar with her. She did the video.
You've mentioned her, but I don't know her.
She did a video called Plandemic, which really went viral last year, early on in the pandemic. What was that? May?
Yeah.
Somewhere June.
May with I can't remember the guy who produced it.
Right.
Anyways.
Anyway, it was her saying, I mean, flat out that this was all planned. This was all orchestrated. She worked at the National Institute of Health for I think 18, 19 years under Dr. Fauci. She tried to expose him, basically be a whistleblower because during the AIDS epidemic, he did some things that were just, well, as nefarious as what he's doing now.
Yeah.
And she called him out on it. He ruined her career with the power he had even back then.
She sat in jail.
Yeah.
Not charged, sat in jail.
He ruined her reputation. He did all those things. So anyway, we had her up here for this medical symposium. And to your point, what you just said, I actually had the real just awesome experience of picking her up from the airport and having a conversation with her. Still to this day, probably the most intelligent human being I've sat next to and ever talked to. And she looked at me and she said, Eric, they don't know what goes into any vaccine in any year. They're, like you just said, she said, there's no liability. They literally just throw shit in. They don't even, most of them don't even know what's going into the vaccine, the flu vaccine, the COVID vaccines. They just throw it in. And I'm sitting there like, really? And she said, think about anti-vax. So JFK Jr. and his foundation and all the people who are quote unquote anti-vax, they had to come up with that moniker for those people because they're telling the truth. And it's going to cost, just like with COVID, people that are telling the truth, it's going to cost them billions of dollars if the truth gets out.
So make them look like dummy conspiracy theorists.
Exactly. So all these people that I've heard for years and years are anti-vaxxers that I've kind of looked at as tinfoil hatters, right?
Yeah.
Now I realize that these people were just trying to do what we're doing right now with COVID.
Yep.
So,
no, and just being completely honest, I like to be transparent, is like, I used to be the same way, because my sister chose to not vaccinate any of her children. And I remember thinking like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Because we've been molded by this system to trust in our government and believe what they say is in our best interests.
Yep.
And, you just blindly kind of follow rules. And I'm hopeful that hopefully this opens up everybody's eyes to a lot bigger picture than just COVID-19.
Yeah. Agreed.
And because I've had people say that, like, well, did you ever vaccinate your kids? And I'm like, yeah, I did.
Because you didn't know.
And if I had to do it over again, I wouldn't.
Yeah, same.
That doesn't take away from the position that I hold now.
Right.
If anything, it reinforces it, because it's like I can acknowledge that I wasn't well enough informed to make that decision. I put my trust in the wrong people, and now, I don't know what the adverse reaction is to them being vaccinated. Me and Tyler talk about this because he didn't vaccinate his kids, but he was vaccinated as a child. And he goes, would I be more intelligent? Would I have a higher IQ? Would I have more empathy?
He also had 7, probably 7. I had 7.
Mm-hmm.
Now, by the age of 2, 72 vaccines.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
72.
Yeah.
God, dude.
You know what Judy told me as well? Actually, this is when I was taking her back to the airport after the medical symposium. She said the majority of disease, like autoimmune disease, these things that people just think people get.
Yeah. We're allergic to grass.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
She said the majority of these afflictions are from vaccines. Mm-hmm. They're from being vaccinated as a child, from being vaccinated as you get older, from the flu vax.
Do you know how? For just eggs, for example, because the vaccine or the virus is grown or cultured in an egg medium. So now you inject it into your body with an adjuvant that is in there to stimulate your immune system So now you're allergic to the egg.
Right.
And in your defense about the vaccinations, you were lied to.
Yep.
You were told
Yeah.
everything's fine and you absolutely need them.
Well, and I've told the story before on the show, but luckily we have a doctor who talked us out of most vaccines. And he's like 70 years old and he's an old school doctor and he's our pediatrician. And he said, he goes, Greg, if this doesn't have 30 years of, if I don't have 30 years of experience with something, I don't feel comfortable putting it into your children. And so there's a lot of stuff that they didn't get that was on that list. Yeah. And I mean, I'm just thankful because he talked me out of it. Yeah. My doctor talked me out of it,
man.
you know?
Yeah.
And, but here's the other thing. My kids are missing a lot of their vaccines and you just get a waiver and your doctor signs off on why, just a little brief, whatever. This is why they don't have their vaccine. Yep. And the school districts never batted a fucking eye at it. Nope. Never been an issue. You wait till fucking next fall.
Yep.
You'll never get a COVID vaccine exemption.
No
doctor is willing to risk their career to give it to you because they'll lose their career instantly. Yep.
So I know you mentioned Event 201.
Your dog.
My dog's up there.
One of your puppies.
I always tell people, I said, hey, this show is done in my house and I have a bunch of dogs and kids and I have a real life. So if you hear the dog whining, that's what that was. But supposedly, and I'm not, you guys follow Candace Owens on Instagram. Did you see the video she posted the day before yesterday? She said that there's another, it's not called Event 201, but it's an equivalent to that.
Okay.
And it is a simulation and all the government entities are getting together to assess what they will do if the power grid collapses. And the reason that they're saying the power grid's going to collapse in this simulation is because the internet, the government needs to take control of the internet to wipe it clean because it's been infected by an internet virus. And so the only way to truly shut down the internet is to shut the entire power grid off while they restructure it. And they even said in the simulation is that one of the reasons they think they may have to do this is related to Bitcoin. And it's like, and so that's what she had the last time they were doing one of these things. And she goes, you can call me a conspiracy theorist. You can say that I'm fucking crazy. And maybe they knew and this was planned, or maybe they predicted it and it came true to a fucking T. Either way, their next prediction should be something you think about. Right?
Absolutely.
So think about and me and Michael, we've been trying to get our property in place and take care of some necessities and get, our property has a river on it. So we're good with water. Michael, by the way, just drinks it by the gallon right out of the river. Fills up that giant fucking hydro flask.
Nice.
But if you're not thinking about some of this kind of stuff and that does happen, you're fucked.
Yep.
And it's not even that you're going to get cold or that you're going to go hungry. It's that society is going to become savage.
Right.
And we wouldn't be able to communicate. This wouldn't happen without the internet.
Of course
All
not.
of the knowledge of what they're trying to do wouldn't happen without the internet.
And it's not just the internet. It's the entire fucking power grid. Your cell phones aren't going to work. And your heater's not going to work.
And what better time to institute martial law?
Yeah, exactly.
That happens,
Yeah.
Heard that coming too.
I always fucking have to bring up the fact that Inslee's state of emergency, that is, according to RCW, can only be implemented for 30 days.
30 days, right. But the legislature gave him permission to kind of re-roll it out every 30 days because the legislature they're a bunch of liberal pussies. They won't stand up to him.
And everybody's cool with that. He's supposed to hold this power for a maximum of 30 days.
I know.
But you know what? We're just going to give it to you indefinitely. No big deal.
And they did.
It's like, what the fuck?
And in the Constitution, there's a thing called delegation of powers. You cannot delegate a power you don't possess.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Well, what happened with
dude.
that? So he can't make employers force a vaccine because he can't force a vaccine.
Right.
People need to wake up.
Yeah. Well, here's the kind of silver lining to that. And if there is any hope for our state and being down at this conference a couple of weekends ago, all of the Republican leadership was down there. Not that I have a lot of faith in them, to be honest with you, but listening to what they had to say about flipping the House and flipping the Senate, because it's 57 Democrats to 41 Republicans right now. And how many of those Republicans are rhinos? Probably a third of them, at least, right? So
like Jamie Butler Herrera.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the guy trying to unseat her is a homie of mine, Joe Kent.
Oh, yeah.
And he's solid.
So actually, Kent I'm speaking at an event down in Maple Valley on Saturday, and he's speaking at that same event.
Okay.
So,
yeah, we were in the Ranger Battalion together when we were 20 years old.
I'll have to tell him I did your show today.
Yeah, he's done it too. He's done the show before too.
Nice.
So.
Yeah, I first met him at the Washington State Republican Party dinner, which was mind-numbing being in the same room as that many politicians. But he was one of the guys that I got to meet there, and he was super cool. So yeah, I'm looking.
Well, do you know his story?
Yeah, I do.
So I mean,
pretty well.
He's in it for the right reasons.
He is.
You know, and it's it's people like that we need.
Yeah. And he is the same type of guy as Vincent Cavallari. He really is. They're cut from the same cloth, the same military experience. You know, Vince has been in the sheriff's office, which is a little different, but I mean, they're very similar individuals. They're both very constitutionally minded.
Yeah.
I love both those guys. I know Vince obviously a lot better, but yeah, I love both those guys.
I mean, one of the things I think is holding this country down, and I'm as guilty as anyone, because I get people that write me emails all the time like, you need to run for this, you need to run for that,
right?
But it's like I think that there's almost something inherently flawed in most people that seek positions of power.
Agreed.
You know?
Yep.
And so like I know like Joe Kent, he's not interested in a position of power.
Yeah.
The only reason he's doing this is because he sees how corrupt it's come, and he's like, I have to get in there and try and unfuck this.
Yep.
But that's why we see so many problems in politics. It's just, I think that inherently a human being that wants to be above other people, you're not looking at life the way that you're not living life the way it's supposed to be lived.
Yep. Agreed.
And so we are always inevitably going to get the wrong people. And you see that in most corporations and most agencies. Like, I mean, we joke about it. We call it fuck up, move up. And like, in the world of law enforcement, because it's like your lowest performers are usually the people that work their way to the top, but it's because their hands always up, and it's always me, pick me, and they're groveling and they're kissing ass and they're playing the game. Where your most capable leaders and the people that probably should be in charge, they're not chasing that because they don't feel like a need to do those things.
Right.
And so, I mean, I don't know what the answer is, but think about if you were to go into politics. I mean, you just mentioned it, how just doing what you're doing right now is detracting from your family time, your personal time.
Yep.
Now you would be doing that same thing, but you'd be surrounded by negativity. You'd be surrounded by fucking snakes in the grass.
Yeah.
And I look at it as like, dude, we live one life, right?
Yeah.
I want to try and make the best of it. And I feel like doing that would just fucking put yourself in the middle of the cesspool.
Yeah.
And it'd be fucking misery. If I knew I could do it and make a big change, like that's one thing. But it makes you wonder, like, if I were to go do that, am I just going to fucking fill my veins full of cortisol, be pissed off for a decade?
Right.
And then I get out and it's for what?
It's funny you bring that up. One of my good friends, he's kind of almost not just a good friend, but my personal security detail. He always has my back. He's a member of a group that I won't name, but great guy. And I was talking to him last night on the phone, and he said, man, you got to run for office. You know, I see all these bullshit people getting in here, all these liberals that are, you know, John Cartack, the mayor of Snohomish, who's a great, great conservative, but to be honest, probably doesn't have the backbone to win in a fight against the liberals because they fight dirty.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't want to stoop to their level, but at the same time, the mud's getting up and hitting him nonstop. And Dustin said, you'd be that guy that would not let the mud hit you, or you'd pick it up and smear it right back on him, and you could win. And I said, but if I did, whether it was mayor or council position or whatever it was, I would have to kind of acquiesce to something that I didn't agree with to get another piece of legislation that I did agree with passed.
Exactly.
And I could never be that person that had one of my constituents come up and say, why did you sign on to this?
Yep. No, I think about that exact scenario.
Yeah.
Because like, if you have a strong moral compass and you're not willing to waver on stuff, I don't think you can operate inside of politics.
Yeah, I agree. Robert
You know?
Sutherland's probably the only guy I've seen do it, the state representative. I don't know how he does it. He has been vilified in the legislature. I mean, he doesn't have a lot of friends there. They've taken him off of almost every committee that he's on, but he's still hanging on. And he's that one guy that I've seen that will not put his name on something he doesn't believe in. I don't know how the fuck he does it. He's turned into one of my really good friends. We go out for beers quite a bit. And I don't even look at him as a politician, even though he has that mantle. He's just a dude, you know?
Well, that's cool. There's some of them still left.
Yeah, very few.
I wanted to ask you, I know most of what you guys are doing is revolving around private business stuff, correct?
Right.
Is there any organization, or are you guys ever looking at getting into the fight for our schools?
Are you talking about the foundation?
Yes. Yeah, about the foundation.
Yeah, I mean, so that's funny. Vince and Pete and I were just on a call about that last night as well. That,
well, I mean,
being as small as we are,
I was going to say it's easy to get stretched thin.
yeah,
right?
we have to, and this is going to sound callous, but you have to know we're not callous guys. We have to go after the low hanging fruit because we need to get people to kind of believe in what we're doing. We want to go after the schools. I want to go after the Second Amendment stuff like no other. I want to partner with Second Amendment Foundation. I want to partner with the NRA. I want to partner with a lot of different people and, you know, get 1639 the fuck off there. My son just turned 18 years old and I couldn't buy him his first rifle.
Yeah.
Right? So stuff like that we want to fight. There's so many things, but for now, the low hanging fruit is the COVID stuff. And we have to go after it. But the kids in school, I'll tell you, there's a few things that we're looking at. The OSHA violations of the CO2 levels in the masks, that doesn't pertain to the kids, but it does pertain to the teachers. It's a big fight because it's a double-edged sword, right? If we decide to file litigation on that or, you know, advocate for that, what if they say, oh, you're right, the CO2 levels in masks are creating an unsafe work environment. Let's just take that accommodation away. So everyone has to be vaccinated. Now there is no accommodation of not being vaccinated and wearing the mask. So it's a juggling act.
Yeah, you try and take care of one problem and their solution is worse than that.
Yeah, you emphasize another problem and make it worse.
Yeah.
So but the kids are on our mind constantly. I mean, we think about different ways that we can do that, but that part's so complicated because school boards have local control, right? So if you have a school board that is, and again, going back to the Patriot group, we focused really hard on trying to identify, fund, and get school board candidates, conservatives, to sit on those boards that will influence our kids' future.
Why is there a school board in the state that is standing up against Inslee? It seems like they all just bend a knee and do whatever the fuck they're told. And that doesn't make any sense to me.
One is, and they're getting hammered. And it just happened.
So they're going to take away their state funding? Like, what are they threatening them with?
Not just their state funding. I believe it's Eatonville, is it Eatonville School District. Yeah. So there were a couple of 3%ers that came up. One of them's on the school board in Eatonville. And he came up and spoke at an event that I was speaking at the Reset Church in Marysville. And he said, and it was big news that they had a 2-to-1 vote on the school board to not fire anyone for being unvaccinated, right? And they're the only school board that we've seen across the state that's taken that stand, had that vote. Well, when I saw them at that event, they said Ferguson and Reichdahl have already sent them letters that if they don't overturn this immediately, they're not just going to take their funding away. This is where it gets really fucked up. These are people who should be indemnified as school board members, right? In the letter that I believe it was Ferguson sent, we are going to go after your personal holdings if you don't turn this over. If you don't change your decision to not fire unvaccinated.
So they're going to go after them financially.
Yes.
Personally. Motherfuckers, man.
I know.
At what point do these cocksuckers incite a legitimate revolution? You know, you're going to take away my fucking, again, dude, like you're going to take away my ability to feed my children.
I know it.
That's what you're coming after now. You know, I know Ian, again, going back to Ian Smith, New Jersey did the same thing to him because they said, yeah, we're fighting your gym, but since you're the one that's like the ringleader of this, we're going to bypass Attila's Gym LLC.
Right.
And the state is coming after you personally. And it's like, They can just bend the rules to do whatever they want.
And that's illegal as hell.
Yeah, you know.
Yep.
But fuck, dude, they're doing that here too.
Yeah. So go back to your question, Eatonville. We're following that closely. Pete, our attorney, has talked with Matt Marshall. He's the school board member, who basically said at this event I was talking about. He said, "Enough's enough. We're not going to let teachers and school workers lose their jobs because they're not getting this vaccine. We won't do it, and we're going to stand up, and they're going to fight. They're not going to back down."
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good.
So hopefully that will embolden other school boards, whether it's around their kind of general area or throughout the state, to kind of try and take a similar stand.
Okay. Do you know how it's working with some of the local agencies that are saying that too? Because I saw a flyer, I almost want to say it was Mill Creek, that said, and they were reaching out to basically all the
Law
officers
enforcement.
that are getting fired from Seattle.
Yeah.
And they said, "Hey, we'll hire you." And I'm like, how are they reaching out for that? When,
Guess who that was? That was Vincent Cavallari.
oh, was it really?
Yeah. Yeah. He's a city councilman in Mill Creek. And about a little over a month ago, he wrote legislation to ban vaccine passports in the city of Mill Creek. And he thought he had the votes. And then at the last minute, a couple of the council members pussied out. And But that's who this guy is, like Vincent Cavallari. And so he was texting Pete and I, and he said, I didn't even read it in the news. He said, I am giving an open invitation to PD throughout the state, not just Seattle PD, but anywhere where they're losing their jobs. If they want to comply, we will not mandate vaccines for our officers, period.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, another case of hopefully that emboldens and it spreads to other people that have the courage to do that shit that we all should just have the courage to do anyway.
Yeah, of course.
You know?
So yeah, I wonder what the backlash to that's going to be. Because I mean, if like you said, you got one school district that's bucking the system and Ferguson's trying to destroy their personal lives.
Yeah.
What are they going to do to the few police departments that aren't playing their game either? You know?
Well, I think the interesting dynamic, and I'm sure you're familiar with it, is that this particular individual on the school board, who was really kind of the litmus test for all the other school board members, he's a 3%er. And they're a big organization.
Yeah.
And so you come after this guy's personal holdings, come after his ability to feed his family.
We'll see where this goes.
We'll see where this goes.
And bro, to tell you the truth, it's like I always say on the show, I'm not trying to incite violence, but at what point is there going to be someone somewhere who's had enough? Their livelihood's been stripped. They're in financial turmoil.
Yep.
They're having a hard time feeding their kids. And they've pushed this person to the fucking brink, like Michael Douglas on Falling Down.
Yeah. So,
you know, I can't believe that hasn't happened yet.
I've talked a lot about that with friends, different people that I've met through the foundation, the Patriot group and everything. And the conclusion that I've come up with, and again, this is just my opinion, is I think it's by design that they want people to take up arms.
I think so too.
They want to be able to call in, the United Nations. They want to be able to declare martial law. I think they're as surprised as we are that it hasn't happened because they want that.
I think so too.
And so
that's interesting. We both come to that same conclusion because if it happens in ones and twos, like they'll be able to stomp you out like a bug. Right. But if it happened on a bigger level, that would give them, oh, look what we have to do.
Exactly.
You know?
Yep.
And then the UN fuckers will be walking around with their blue helmets on.
Yeah.
And we can see if those blue helmets stop 762. That's my opinion.
Right.
That's not Eric's opinion. But I'm fucking like, have some fucking outside government entity patrolling my fucking streets.
Yeah.
Telling us what to do.
When the UN's here, we no longer have a constitutional republic at all.
Yeah.
That's when it's dead.
And bro, even when I was in Ramadi and Fallujah in 04 and 05, I was like, if I was a local, there's Americans fucking driving tanks down my streets.
Right.
I can understand why they're putting bombs in the road.
Yep.
It's like, I didn't like the fact that there were bombs in the road.
Right.
But what the fuck are we doing here? Like, I can understand why these people are outraged. And it's like, an insurgency. This is what people understand is like an insurgency is not a uniformed military. An insurgency is an ideology.
Yep.
It's simply a belief structure. That's why the Taliban took over Afghanistan after the Russians. That's why they took it over after fucking the United States, is because the Taliban isn't a military. The Taliban is a fucking belief system and an ideology.
Yeah.
And that's hard to fucking defeat.
You won't kill it.
You can't kill it, you know? And so it's like, I'm hoping, and again, maybe I'm fucking just not, maybe I'm not correct in being hopeful for this, but I'm hoping if it ever does get pushed to that point, that Americans do have that ideology and they do have that willingness to fight back and fucking be who we're supposed to be, you know? But I don't know, man. I don't know. We will see where it goes.
Yep. I think that's the only thing I'm willing to commit to say on air is we'll see where it goes.
Well, this is what I always say too, man, is that regardless, if the world turns around tomorrow and we vote the shitty people out and we vote good people in,
right,
the economy turns around and we're spending more time on our boat with our wives and our families, that's cool, right? And like, yes, all right, we didn't have to fight that fight. Or if the world just spins into absolute turmoil and chaos and we're living out in the woods, raising goats and chickens, having people on patrol, having a fucking perimeter set up, that may not feel like the greatest life, but it will be rewarding.
Yeah.
The people that you're close with, you will be twice as close with them.
Yep.
And it'll give you a sense of meaning. It'll give you a sense of belonging.
Right.
And I think that scenario will be equally as exciting and fulfilling.
I agree.
So once I looked at those two scenarios, I was like, you know what? I'll put the ball in their court.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be just a good guy and have fun and run my business and raise my children. But if they want to push us to a scenario where it becomes survival base, well, let's do that too,
Nice.
you know? And I think if you're comfortable with that, then these people can't intimidate you,
right?
And they can't put fear in your heart. And they rely on putting fear in people's hearts to ensure that they get their way with all this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a controlling mechanism.
You know?
Sure. You know, looking at those two scenarios, my thing is, even if we do go back to norm, not the new normal, but back to how life used to be, to where we're on our boats and we're running our businesses, and what we really have to worry about is our kids getting our damn homework in and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'll still never fall back asleep to what happened.
Yeah. No, you
Never.
can't. No. And one thing I say all the time on the show is that the system that we allowed to grow and become what it is what brought us to where we are at right now today.
Yep.
So if we just go back to what it was, well, what it was is what brought us right here. So no matter how this shakes out, we need fundamental change.
Yep.
And I don't know what that looks like. I always say, I think it starts with term limits. I think that's probably one of the biggest fundamental changes.
Agreed.
Because being a politician shouldn't be a career.
Yep.
It should be a term of your life where you serve your country, like a military enlistment.
Well, because it turns into a career of corruption.
Of course it does.
It's impossible to have as many, and getting rid of special interests is another big one. You know, with as many special interest lobbying groups as we have out there, it's impossible to be a politician for 20 years and not make millions of dollars.
I know.
You literally have people dropping this shit in offshore accounts for you. We all know what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you're right. The system has to fundamentally change, and you almost have to blow it up to get it back to where you
and that's what I was going to say. It's like a drug addict, right? Like, what do people always say? The only way they can get better is they have to hit rock bottom first.
Yep.
And then they have to want to change. And so America's going to have to hit their rock bottom, and then she's going to have to figure out a way to want to change. And without those things, the trajectory just doesn't look good.
We're going to be raising goats.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to be raising goats. Well, fuck, man, we've been at it an hour and 45 minutes. I usually wrap these up somewhere around 2 hours.
Okay.
I'll give you the floor. We can talk about stuff as long as you want, but if you want to direct people back to your website, or if there's any other things, loose ends you wanted to tie up, or points that we missed, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I'll take just a couple of minutes to go back to, because I really am proud of all the people who have contributed their time in the Patriot group, you know, before the foundation started. I mean, we did last year during the height of the first mass mandate, we did about 40 different massless shopping events throughout Snohomish County, and we'd organize them to where, say, we get 50, 60, 70 people there. we'd get 2 people to go in at a time about a minute apart. And within 30, 40 minutes, people would look around the store that are wearing masks and say, shit, have the mandates changed? You know, because they change so fast anyway.
Yeah.
And we would get people just being, again, emboldened to take their masks off because they were so afraid of being shamed, because fear is what drives all this stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
So we did a bunch of those. Those were amazing. And then, you know, with the Patriot Group, we also have raised a lot of money for local conservatives to try, like school board members, Mayor Kartak, just a lot of people that we believed in. And we didn't just, I never ran the Patriot Group to have people come in and just say, what should I do, Eric? I never want to be that.
Mhm.
You know, I'm almost a reluctant leader. Like, I started this group so we could all do what we do and create change, but I don't want people coming to me and saying, tell me what to do. That's fucked up. That's not leadership.
That's the best. I think the best leaders feel reluctancy to being a leader.
Yeah.
I think they should. Leadership is a burden.
Yeah, it really is. So these, you know, we have these candidates physically come in and tell us, even though they're conservatives, we still want to hear what their platform is. What are you going to do for us? How are you going to change things in our community? Whether it's a school board or a city council or a county council or whatever. And then from there, I mean, if we liked their position, we would support them financially. We would get grouped committees together to go out and go doorbelling for them, because the reality is everyone's flawed. The conservatives are flawed, you know, not as much as the left, in my opinion, and I'm sure yours, but they're still flawed, right? And we're just trying to get as many good people into office as possible that can help create change for future generations. And so that's another thing that we did that we're really proud of. But segueing back to the foundation, it's by far the biggest thing I've ever done in my life. You know, having kids is probably trumps it, but professionally, I've never thought I would do anything this big.
Mhm.
I really didn't. I thought my life was on cruise control. You know, what's going to happen in politics, it's going to happen in politics. And when they stripped my constitutional rights away and told me I couldn't do A, B, C, and D, it just lit a fire inside me, man. And I never served in Afghanistan. I was never special ops. I was never in the military, which in hindsight, I wish I would have been. I wish I would have had that experience to have that brotherhood and everything, but I didn't. But I do have a brotherhood now with my Patriot Group and the things that we do. And we've done, you know, a lot of firearm training for new gun owners. We bring these people out, you know, men, women, and, you know, really young people that are 21, just old enough to buy a gun. And we'll take them up to Green Mountain and we'll show them, you know, how to take their gun apart, how to clean it. Gun safety's first, obviously, and then just spend a fair amount of time on that.
Yeah. I'd love to get involved in some of that. So
yeah,
let me know.
Awesome. I will. So getting into the foundation though, our goal is I want to be doing this 20 years from now, you know, until I retire. I want to be fighting government overreach in Washington, because it's never going to go away.
Yeah.
I don't care if the mandates go away. I mean, I do, but you know what I mean?
There's still a fight to be had.
There's always going to be that fight with government trying to take our rights away from us. And both Pete, Vince, and I feel like, you know, now if Vince wins his congressional seat, that'll change things a little bit. He'll be pretty busy. But all three of us, the idea behind this foundation is this is our life goal, to create change in the state of Washington without having to be a politician, right?
Yeah.
We've got an attorney who can litigate. I've got the business mind to kind of push it forward and help it grow. So we're super excited about it. And so if everybody could visit our website, there's a lot of information on there. There's a lot of videos of Pete, our attorney, talking about the litigation. I have some videos on there talking about the foundation. But more importantly for us right now, being a grassroots effort, we need funding. And if it's $20, $50, $100, this money is money you're investing in your future as a citizen of our constitutional republic and a citizen of Washington.
Mm-hmm.
So being a 501c3, hopefully that comes through, but we still are a nonprofit in the state of Washington. So we can't take any of that money and like go down to McDonald's, you know. This all goes back into the foundation. So every dime that anyone donates goes into our fight, and hopefully people will step up and realize what we're doing for them. And we're seeing that. We're absolutely seeing more and more people step up. We've had a lot of fundraisers, different events, and we'll continue to do those. But, you know, I'd also like to speak to the people out there who have these fat wallets, who are just sitting on them and not doing anything with it. Your grandkids are going to be suffering in 10 years if we don't fight this fight, period. Because nobody else is. There's nobody in Washington. There's Freedom Foundation out there. They should be filing lawsuits on this stuff. They're huge. They have a $500 million operating budget, but they've chosen to be real narrow and just fight against the unions for the workers, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they could spare 2, 3, 4 attorneys to come help us fight against Ferguson for the mandates, but they won't do it. There's a lot of groups out there that could fight, and we're pretty much the only ones. We're the only foundation that's willing to step up, like you said earlier, put that target on our back and say, bring it on, Ferguson, bring it on, Inslee. We're going to fucking fight you to the end.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome, man. Well, I mean, it's cool to see that even though nobody else is doing it, at least there are a couple guys that got together, put this thing and got the wheels moving, and it's actually happening now, you know? And so I know we talk about like the doomsday scenario and stuff, but I still remain hopeful that, because you have to have hope, right? Yeah. And I remain hopeful as long as there's the right people in the right places still trying to affect change, that it's going to happen.
Yeah, agreed.
And because if you didn't believe that, what would be the point of all this?
Yeah, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I think hope is what we all need to hold on to. But, you know, in the end, I don't look at these people as like opposing political parties anymore. I look at this as a fight between good and evil.
Agreed.
Because those people, and I don't know, I go back and forth on this. I don't even think Inslee's calling any shots. I think he's a puppet, just like Biden is.
I agree.
And he's being directed to do things. But if you're the figurehead that is doing the directing, then you are my enemy.
Agreed.
And in this fight between good and evil, we have to believe that good will prevail. I don't know how long that's going to take, but as long as we keep our nose to the grindstone, sooner or later, good will win this fight.
I agree. And, you know, going back to our foundation, if we can get people to step up and fund it, and I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, but the reality is if we can hire more attorneys, if we can hire more paralegals, if we can get more ancillary staff involved with this, we can fight on a much bigger level, right? Mm-hmm. Like we can take on the Boeings and we can take on all these corporate entities that are just raining tyranny down on people of Washington. So I don't think I've mentioned, we have a Facebook page as well, Silent Majority Foundation on Facebook. We have a Instagram, Silent Majority Foundation. We have a locals page, which a lot of people may not be familiar with, but it's Silent Majority Foundation on locals. We do have a Twitter account where there's not a ton of content on that yet. Again, we're so new. We're trying to...
Twitter's a cesspool anyway.
Right. But some people use it. And again, but our funding page on our website and they're actually, if you go to our Facebook page, you can find, and our Instagram page, our website is there, a link, and it will take you to our website. You can go to our PayPal and donate. And I really encourage people to do it for the future of their kids.
Cool, man. So. All right. Well, again, like I said, I appreciate you coming out. I will put direct links to all of your different pages in the show notes.
Thanks,
and then I'll put them out on my Instagram as well, because all of this stuff is networking. Right. You know, my life changed dramatically over the last 18 months just by connecting with the right people and talking with the right people. And it made me realize is that a conversation can change your life.
Absolutely.
A video can change your life.
Yep.
And what we're doing right now, the right person hears it, the right person is motivated, or you speak to their heart, it could be huge, you know? Absolutely. So I think it's important to keep doing this, keep pushing the word out.
Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate your fight, man. Like I said before we were on air, watching your video last year really fired me up. It got me to a point where, I didn't think that any of this stuff was legal or constitutional. But once I watched you stand up in your squad car and say what you said, it pushed me to a different level.
That's cool, man. I appreciate hearing that, because that was the whole point of making the video.
Yep.
I wanted to help people. I don't want to say wake up, because I don't have the authority to wake you up, but by sharing my thoughts and my opinions, it made people kind of reflect on their own lives and think about maybe looking at their own thoughts and their own opinions. And man, there's a bigger problem here than a lot of people realize.
Absolutely.
You know? Well, cool, man. We'll wrap it up, and man, let's circle back in 6 months or something.
Yeah.
I'd love to let people have an update and hear how the fight's going, because this is important.
Yeah,
shit.
I would love to at some point, if it's doable, to get me and our attorney on a podcast to have him talk about all the legalese, because I can only do so much.
Yeah, you guys have an open invitation.
Okay.
And so whenever you're ready to make that happen, let me know.
Very cool.
All right,
brother.
Thank you. Appreciate it.